Gotta unmute yourself.
So like we were saying, it is Thursday, 1 o'clock generational change. Because normally we're here at 9 o'clock, but we do one every once in a while.
That's so
like
funny.
Exceptions for our guests.
So Mario, hello!
Hello!
Just in case Mario comes on, hello, oh, welcome. It is Thursday afternoon generational change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter, and I was, before I started my workout this morning, I got the, usually every once in a while, one of the clips will show up that is, you know, just totally at random. But the one that I got today was when Costanza pretends to be a tourist in order to date
right. And he has to clear out the apartment.
Yes, clear out the apartment.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of moving to New York.
You can never handle it.
You can.
You know who that was? That was Rena Sofer.
Yes. Well, I get.
How do you know who she is? She's a soap opera person.
Oh, well, it's the eyes. That's the eyes.
No, she's a soap opera person.
Well, I'm saying, but she's got the eyes.
Yeah, well.
And the whole premise was, oh, Mr. Steinbrenner eventually finds out. George, I hear you're working with the other.
The chicken guy. The chicken guy.
Fucking the head back and forth. Well, if you think, Costanza, that you're going to keep, if you think you're going to get Costanza,
that was
chicken twist.
So
freaking funny. There's no show like
what makes me sad is that stuff like that can't.
That Seinfeld is such a Zionist douchebag.
Well, yeah, he's just gross. But I mean, just in terms of like that show wouldn't even be able to exist. And so many things that are so funny, we can't even laugh at. And that makes me sad.
It also goes to show you that not all Jews are created equal, because I have no doubt whatsoever that Jason Alexander, who I have been told by many, many people is an awesome guy, and probably thinks what's happening right now is absolutely terrible.
You cannot know these things.
Maybe,
we're projecting on a people you don't know.
No,
you just know Jerry's a douche.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that you hope that Alexander is much more reasonable about what's going on right now.
Well, at least smart enough to be keeping his mouth shut. How's that?
I mean, is that better than not saying it, than saying something that's bad?
We don't know then, so it remains unknown.
But Jerry's really tough. You know, he goes over there with the
God, like
with the regalia and everything.
IOF fantasy camp. He goes over there for like the whole fantasy camp thing. They probably are excited to write their names on missiles and shit like that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that has happened, but we're going to lead before we bring in our
guests. I was happy a second ago, and now I'm angry.
Oh, you're going to be angry all day.
You know what? This is the problem. This is why, honestly, there is just not enough weed.
Colin, please drop the Pelosi link.
Oh, good God, not this bag.
So unfortunately, I know you
don't do that. You don't do women well. Just don't.
I'm not going to try that, but You see, unfortunately, the person who is still in charge of the Democratic Party, despite what a lot of people would like you to believe, has an opinion, a very...
she's got an opinion.
Yeah, she's always got something to say, especially when it comes to war and endless war. And when it comes to why are we giving hundreds of billions of dollars to what has been Ukraine, now Gaza, eventually Taiwan. These things don't end, but she wants you to know something. It's important about what's happening with this money.
Let's see what
like
she says.
what Israel is doing, and the president has made it clear that some of what Israel is doing he doesn't like.
That's right.
And you go on supplying them with hardware to do those things. You own this operation every bit as much as they do, don't you?
No, we don't. We don't.
No.
No.
You don't.
No. They couldn't be doing it without us, but we don't own that.
You know, I have to say, and I've been, Medea Benjamin of Code Pink is a friend of ours, and we made a point to, say to her that when you called out Pelosi, when you told her that she is aiding and abetting a genocide, she wanted to kill her.
Oh, she did.
You could tell it got to her. It got to her.
She shooed Medea. She shooed Medea. Like, what I would not give to have been there. First of all, I would love someone to do that to me. I really would. I would love somebody to do that to me. But I would love to be there when somebody does that to Medea. Just really?
We'll continue, unfortunately.
We have always supported Israel as our national security friend, largely because it was in our interest to do so. Largely because it was in.
We can agree to disagree on that, Nancy.
And this is the thing that everyone gets on RFK and a lot of other people about. But the truth is that Pelosi's only actually telling the truth. It is in our so-called national interest to have Israel.
But it actually really isn't.
Well,
that's the thing.
Well, to who then? I guess.
Well, but we've had many military people on this show, experts in stuff like this, who have said Israel is a liability. I'm talking about to the military-industrial complex. Oh, I just wish she would just say the actual truth. See, what she should be saying is, no, I know we're killing all these people, but my portfolio is amazing this year. And I am competing with everybody else in Congress to see who can make the most money off of these Gazans. So we got to stick.
Sorry, but people have to die in order for her to.
That's just. I'd love for her to tell the truth. You know,
when they say some have to die in order to live, yeah, well, some have to die in order for.
That's the one thing. That's the one thing I appreciate about Trump is that occasionally he does. He tells the truth.
Oh, I totally tell the truth every
only every once in a while when he's not paying attention. But
I'm always telling the truth.
He said, "We're in Syria for the oil."
No, we're totally there for the oil.
Yeah, well, but no one else was saying that. They were there to protect the Syrians.
Yeah, but Pelosi won't say that.
So we had shared values that only democracy in the region. The behavior of Netanyahu is, in my view...
I'm not going to make it through this.
This is, really dishonest. Isn't Turkey a democracy? Isn't Lebanon a democracy? They're not.
Here's the thing. I don't know, but I sure as shit know Israel's not.
No, but you see,
it doesn't matter about that. I don't know enough about Lebanon and Turkey. I don't know.
I'm using it as an example because what they're basically saying, and again, you know me, I am the most anti-woke person on the left that you'll ever talk to, but it is painfully obvious that it's an anti-Muslim trope when they say that the only democracy in the Middle East is Israel. Because that's what they're saying.
Well, first of all, it's completely inaccurate according to every international human rights organization. So I disagree with that premise.
But as we will see, and as was the case at the UN this week, the U.S. makes the rules.
Oh, no, we veto that.
Inexcusable in terms of how it has affected the collateral damage to children and families and the rest. But nobody can take away the right of any country to defend itself that has been brutally attacked in that way.
Last week, the EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, wondered aloud why the US isn't doing more to have its warnings taken seriously in Jerusalem.
Maybe because
if you believe, he said, that too many people are being killed, maybe you should provide fewer arms in order to prevent so many people being killed. He's got a point, hasn't he?
Oh, my God. That's
Israel is very well equipped with weaponry. There's nothing that we have sent since October 7th that has contributed to this brutality.
I mean, at this point, all you can really do is just laugh.
No, I'm so infuriated right now. This makes me so angry.
I'm not going to call the person out by name because it doesn't matter. But the person is we'll just say a spokesperson on MSNBC. And they put out a message today, and we'll leave it at that, that basically says the Palestinians of Michigan, or wherever else they may be in the United States, but the overwhelming majority of the Palestinian population in the U.S. resides in Michigan, that they have a right to not vote for Joe if they don't want to. But everybody else better get on board. And the reason that they have to get on board is that if you think that AIPAC has control over the Democratic Party, wait till you see the Republicans. So basically,
you're screwed either way.
So you're admitting that there is no real tangible benefit.
Hence,
you're admitting that it's broken.
Hence, not a real democracy.
We are a democracy.
Wow. We're a democracy like Israel's a democracy. So that's just great.
Well,
we're all democracies together.
We'll finish out what this fool has to say.
I can't with her.
In the longer run, they're in a dangerous neighborhood, and we will continue to support Israel.
I just feel so much rage. I feel so much rage. First of all, the children in this are not collateral damage. They're purposeful. That's not collateral damage. Collateral damage is when you hit actual military targets and maybe there's a child playing somewhere that they ought not be playing and they get killed. That's collateral damage. These children are being massacred, annihilated, and genocided. See, it's not collateral, purposeful. I think words matter.
And Pelosi, speaking out of both sides of her mouth. On the one hand, we're not helping. We're not part of the genocide.
We're not.
But we are supporting Israel.
In the same sentence.
The sad part is that there probably are a lot of people that hear that and they think to themselves, that makes sense.
Yeah. They're not really listening. They're not really listening. They just root for their team. That's the problem.
What I do think is a silver lining, though, is that a lot of that whole team playing nonsense, I think, is dying. I do think that's going by the wayside. And I think that we have a lot to be thankful for.
Yes.
Now, I've always said that
we're having a revolution.
I suppose we are.
I'm having a revolution.
But we should be very thankful that we do have mediums of communication today that we didn't have yesteryear, even though I think that so much of societal problems can be traced to the fact that we are so indoctrinated into things like social media. But if you use them for the right reason, it's amazing what you can accomplish.
Well, but look, we're seeing live time what's happening in Gaza, and they're still gaslighting us while we're watching it. See, it worked in the 90s, Nancy. It worked in the 90s.
Yes, she wants the 90s back, right?
Well, they want their 90s back. See, in the 90s, you could gaslight us so much better because we couldn't just look this shit up. I wasn't following a girl that's hiding in a tent. I wasn't following her. So you couldn't, But it's amazing. They still sit there and gaslight us.
We don't have one.
Fascinating.
We don't have one. We have two amazing free Palestinian guests on our show today, because this is a very important topic that is not going away. And despite what the powers that be would want us to believe, remember, you have to vote for Joe because reasons. That type of shit is starting slowly but surely to die. And why it's so important is that it's never going to work again.
No.
It's not going to work again.
That's what's so funny. They keep trying the same thing, and they don't realize that, we're watching, we see you.
Well, if anybody, and I have to say, and this goes without saying that there are many great content creators out there who do a lot of good things to highlight what's going on right now. But nobody, and I mean nobody, captured white liberal tears better than Crissa Ireland. Welcome to Generational Change.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's so nice to meet you. I'm sorry you've been waiting, and I'm sorry you had to listen to the whole hair thing and all of that. But welcome. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And she's come prepared for their outfits.
Well, she's got her watermelon. He makes me wear a uniform, but I am actually in the process right now at Pilates, participating in what I call watermelon psychological warfare, because my Pilates studio has an inordinate amount of Israelis. So I wear watermelons every single time in class. Nice. They sit there and they were giving me the stink eye anyway. So now I've doubled down.
Well,
you have to.
If anybody can appreciate that type of pain, it is our other guest, who is also Jewish and definitely knows that free Palestine is the only way forward. Sally hates capitalism. Welcome to Generational Change.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, I've got to ask you, We don't often meet ginger Jews. Are you really a ginger?
Well, it's funny. I am not, but what I was gonna say is funny is I have two cousins who are redheads naturally.
Right.
So yeah, there definitely are a good number of Jewish
some
redheads. Yeah, but no, I always had really light skin, and I was like, I think I could pull this off.
Well, you totally do.
Yeah,
totally
absolutely.
do. I was actually thinking she's probably not really Jewish, as opposed to.
Yeah. No, I've been dyeing it various shades of red since like 8th grade.
Excellent. Welcome.
Good to be here.
And apparently, since you're not a real redhead, you actually have a soul. I'm sorry, I have to do this.
I hate that so much.
I always tell my kids to cut that out, but it's like
that's horrible.
Like, that's like the last acceptable form of discrimination.
I think that's ridiculous. I think it's so cool.
Yes. Well, we're all about learning and acquiring different knowledge, whether it's blonde, brunettes, redhead. We all have something to offer.
I'm not brunette. I'm really something more like a mousy brown gray, but we can go with that.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, mine's starting to like. I have to do my roots more often.
And I know you're too young because I have been told you're both big on TikTok.
Oh, yeah, she might be. I was gonna say I've had my TikTok accounts deleted multiple times. So like I had one that started to gain traction, and then like TikTok is absolutely terrible with the Palestine stuff. Like they just completely ban everything. So I'm not big on TikTok by any means, but I'm there. I have 2 accounts right now.
What does that say?
I used to be big, and then like Sally just said, December, I was one of the ones that was impacted by they were targeting all the Palestine accounts, and it just went up overnight. And then I was just like, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to stop talking about this.
No. How did you get into that? I mean, obviously we're white liberals video is hilarious. Unfortunately, it pertains to other people that aren't just white liberals. That's the thing.
Sure.
But like, how did you get into the issue with Israel? Because everybody sort of comes to it in a different way if they're not from there.
Yeah, good question. Because prior to October 7th, I can fully admit I was one of those insufferable white liberals that I'm mocking. I built my platform and it had, 50,000 followers based on basically mocking or trolling Trumpers or right-wing bigots. And that's low-hanging fruit, it's easy to do. And then I saw this travesty happen. And I mean, nothing will radicalize you more than seeing people die on a daily basis, and then people who are supposedly on your side of the aisle go, yeah, but still vote blue. Vote blue. Yeah, it's terrible, but America first. That is crazy to me. It's insane that my side is sounding like. So it's made it so clear that there's no distinction anymore. That like liberals, in my opinion, are just conservatives who are cool with rainbows, as far as I'm concerned. Like I don't see any difference. And it's just it was incendiary. It made me
you
so
did a
angry.
speed version of my thing. Like it took me about 10 years, but I was brainwashed as Zionist, so I had deprogramming to do. But you that's a pretty good turnaround from being like oblivious to.
Well, also, they'll do that to you too. They're so hateful. The things that they would say to me, just that if I considered not voting for Biden, I've never even said the words, I'm not voting for Biden. Others have. I've listened to their voices, and most of them are marginalized people. That's what struck me. I'm like, okay, my side, the people who seem most afraid look like me, and we're not the ones that will be most affected should Trump get elected. So they forced me to think, I don't want to look like that. I do not want to be like that. It made me take a look at myself to see how hateful and how ineffectual I was with people I didn't agree with. Mocking them, being condescending to them, that didn't work. Didn't work. It's not going to pull people over to your side. You're pushing people away, actually.
Right. Absolutely.
So it was them, and I just started listening to the voices of the most marginalized. And if they're not afraid of a Trump presidency enough to say, to not say fuck Joe Biden, excuse my French. If they're not afraid, then why should I be? I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to follow their lead.
That's cool.
For me, honestly. And it was very fast. but it's just so disgusting. And I don't want to be that ignorant. I don't want to be that condescending. And I don't want to be that ineffectual person who's not actually making any difference. I'm just trolling people for fun. Like, I want to be on the side of human rights. That's literally it. I don't know what's so controversial about that to people, but
because you're getting in the way of capital.
But do you condemn Hamas?
Right.
No, I don't anymore. And that's what is like, so, you know, it's scary to put my name out there. It's my maiden name. Ireland, I'm not Irish at all, but who cares? If people I grew up with don't like that I say Free Palestine, then fuck them too.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up Pottstown, Pennsylvania, which is like kind of close to Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm around Philly now. But yeah, it's nobody wants to live where I grew up. It's fine.
Sally, what was your odyssey?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You know, well, I was a little bit sooner than Crissa, but I will say that, you know, Crissa, I think, you know, better late than never.
Thank you.
And you know, more power to you for you know, you got here, and I think that's really all that matters. And I feel like that's why it's all the more reason we just need to keep, you know, being crystal clear about what the hell's going on. And I think more and more liberals are becoming more radicalized as leftists, socialists, communists, whatever you want to, you know, call yourself. But I do think more and more people that's happening. And so, but yeah, for me, definitely I was like always more of like a progressive for a long time, progressive type of liberal. I certainly was voting blue no matter who, I think. But then 2016, I mean, you know, I think my story is similar to a lot of people's. Bernie Sanders definitely did. That's what's so devastating now, you know, because fuck Bernie now. I mean, I can't with him. It's bullshit. But definitely in 2016, he helped open my eyes to the corruption of Democrats and just the reality of how rigged the system really is. And so I was very, very into the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016. I probably at that point was calling myself a democratic socialist, which really now I understand is just, it's a social democrat. Like, you're still wanting the system of capitalism and you're still supporting all of the imperialism all around the world, which unfortunately includes Zionism for sure, in Israel. And but anyway, I think that, and I did. So the thing is, in 2016, like, I was pissed as hell about, you know, Bernie getting screwed and Hillary winning. And I didn't like Hillary, but I did ultimately vote for Hillary against Trump. And I mean, and it was that whole like, oh my God, Trump. Oh my God, but Trump.
You're
Trump
a really
so
terrible person. I just have to put that out there.
And I need to know.
That's not bad. That's not a bad impression.
Dinah hat.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah. No, did
you? I did not.
Oh no, I actually didn't. Like, I like understood why there were some women wearing one, but fortunately, no, I never did. So that is good to know. No one can ever find a picture of me wearing one. But it's like, I mean, I understood like where that came from with the whole grab them by the pussy thing, but it is super cringe. Like, definitely those hats. Yeah.
And I would suggest that Trump might have said grab him by the pussy, but I might suggest that Joe actually did.
Exactly.
We had our read on the show. So you know,
Listen, if you're going to invoke my name, I'm totally coming on here. So I just want to be very clear, very clear. I did say grab them by the pussy, but very gently. That's what I wanted to say. Just have to let you know.
Not a bad impression.
I'm so tired of again, this is the problem with the left politically, is you got to put your big boy pants on. Like, at some point, you have to realize that you have no health care, you have no living wage, the planet's on fire, and we have endless war, which is making the planet on fire. So anybody there's stupid mouth shut about the fact that we have endless war, and that's what's destroying the planet. Don't want to fucking hear it anymore.
Right.
Like, stop with your fucking feelings. Like, at some point, you got to realize why people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, who seriously are the biggest douche canoes in all of independent media. There's a reason why they're being successful, is because that type of sissy shit just isn't working anymore. And that's why when we had this opportunity in 2016 to grow this movement, and it completely got decimated for one reason or another, we're almost back to square one. But I still feel like there's an undercurrent, especially in the labor movement, where we could recapture that energy again. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that it has to be about focusing specifically on capitalism and the entire system. I mean, I think that's what I was going to say. It's like in 2016, I voted for Hillary, and I was, but then it's like, when it came time for 2020 primaries, I'm like, we're not doing this shit again. Like when it was going to be Joe Biden, like I knew from the get-go that Biden was horrible. Like he is this system, capitalism personified. Like he's always been there. He's been a senator for so long, and like literally helped to pass, some of these laws that have actively been destroying working class people's lives, of course, Black people's lives, especially. I mean, and so, 2020, it was like, for me, when they were trying to do that, I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not doing this again. Don't tell me to vote. Like I did it in 2016, and I feel icky about it. Yeah. And even then, even after I did it, I voted for Hillary. Like we still got shit on. And I remember her doing interviews and talking shit about Bernie Sanders and Bernie supporters and all of that, and that whole bullshit, and Elizabeth Warren freaking out about us and all of the nonsense. But it's just like, fast forward, like realizing like little by little that this capitalism is the problem, and it leads to all this other shit. And it is why, global warming, dying, and mass murdering all of these people, kids all around the world, such as in Palestine. And that like we have to build a real working class socialist movement and like get rid of every capitalist colonial power structure. And so just little by little kind of realizing that it's like root causes are the focus. And, it wasn't a one day thing, but little by like first I was Democratic Socialist. I dropped the Democratic because I was like, you know what, that's redundant. I don't think I need to say that. Socialist means that you want real democracy, that it is democratic. And I feel like Bernie calling himself Democratic Socialist is kind of playing into this idea that there's something wrong with socialism, and that we have to say like, oh, not the bad kind of socialism, but but it's all good. And then little by little, like now I would say I'm a Marxist Leninist. Just the more I learn about it, like I understand that might be more further left than some people here, and that's some people who watch you. But I'm just putting that out there.
I need that.
I mean, that's
I need to hear that.
It's like, and it's whatever you call yourself, I think is fine if you're on that path to like just being focused on root causes and like what is the reason why this shit keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and we can't keep doing the same thing,
right?
So anyway, that's where I'm at.
I tell you all that I started a movement back in 2015. I didn't expect it to grow as big as it did, but
that's really good.
Yeah, you are good.
You're good, Bernie.
So
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Interesting is that I generally avoid labels, other than I technically am registered as a Democrat because I live in a closed primary state in Broward County, and if I wasn't, there would be no point in voting. But other than that, I don't do labels. But I will say that the older I get, I'm further and further to the left. And some people think I might have fallen off over there. Like I am almost touching back around. Like that's how it feels. And the older I get, the more left I'm getting. So I totally understand like what you're saying. But what's so interesting is the amount of people that seem to get conservative as they get older. And I'm like, I'm down with the idea of open borders. You know what I mean? Like we could talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Want to live and let live. I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
no, borders are bullshit. Yeah. It's a made up social construct.
I'm gonna push back for this reason. So the reason why open borders is not a good policy is simply this. It's not about whether you accept people from other countries. It has to do with whether or not you have a balance within the labor market. Now, what we've seen over the past I guess you would say 2 to 3 years, not even, probably 2 years at most, you're seeing a revitalization within the labor movement. And I think it's gotten even more radical after Biden became the first president since good old Ronald Reagan to break a strike. And yet people say that this guy's the best president of our lifetime. And I'm thinking, oh, this guy's just totally.
Well, no, we have a very low bar.
Right. Oh, very.
So
very.
And so when you have somebody, listen, I do not agree with Sean Fain endorsing Joe under any circumstances. However, what he has done with the UAW has definitely moved the needle in the right direction. So what is the response of the oligarchs in this country? Is it, well, I guess, think of it this way. UAW workers that work for Daimler Chrysler and GM and all them, they are now on average making twice the salary that people who work for Elon's Tesla company end up making. So
talk about douche canoes.
So what's going to happen? You think Elon is going to just say, oh, by all means, let's give everybody a fair share and give them their rightful salary? No, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the border like we always do, open the floodgates and bring in low-paying workers that do not have any leverage and screw the working class and make us rich, and you have no labor laws to stand on in order to stop it. So to me, these are always political pawns. They don't give a shit about immigrants. They don't care one bit about them.
Right.
They only see
Definitely
them as,
Really?
how can we use them? How can we use them to keep us rich? Like when Pelosi opens up her stupid mouth and goes out there and says, we need people to pick the oranges and the strawberries. What's the matter? You don't want to pick them? You know, it's just taking, it's dehumanization is the whole point.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not a radical border wall guy. I'm just saying we have to be objective about why the policies matter.
So, Crissa, you're learning as you're going, right? Like this is
Totally
a lot of it.
Completely, absolutely. There's no finished product whatsoever. I'm just listening and just learning because I can acknowledge that I've been ignorant for so long. Like I think Sally, I think yourself, Peter, you're just further along, and I am inspired by that because it feels so crazy making to be on TikTok, frankly, where there's not a lot of white liberals, speaking out about this issue. Instead, like literally browbeating people, saying to me, if I don't vote for Joe Biden, they hope I need reproductive care one day and that I'm denied. Like hatefulness. Yeah. So that's what pushes you. And they're not running on, this is something I learned from Amani Barbaran, who is Crutches and Spice on TikTok. Mm-hmm. There is no hope in the Democratic Party's policy, platform and campaign. They are not, they're not campaigning on hope whatsoever. They're only campaigning on fear, and they're only campaigning on not Trump. And that's not enough. Yep. It's not enough. People are not going to vote for Joe Biden. He is going to lose to Trump.
So what do you think? I mean, we've been at this for a while, and Sally in particular, you and I are probably close in age and probably a similar political.
And I'm just old.
You're old. That's okay.
That's so
nothing wrong with it. You don't look at it all.
With age comes wisdom. We all have.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point now where I'm really questioning what is it that they are holding over these people's heads. I mean, I know everyone will joke that it's like, well, if you were on Epstein's Island, they got this on you and this and that. But these are supposedly elected representatives who did not take the corporate special interest money, that managed to break through, that they are in a position where they actually have leverage. Like, to me, Biden is the best example of where you have the ultimate political leverage. He is the weakest incumbent since Jimmy Carter, and it's not close. Yeah. In addition to that, he is clearly on the severe decline in terms of, forget the age, forget the.
This has been weekend at Bernie's this whole time with him. It's absurd.
And it's not even ageist anymore. I don't want to hear that it's ageist. It's just ageist facts. Oh, yeah. Like we have eyes and we have ears. We see mental decline. You can look at 4 years ago. Right. You can see the difference in him. Right. There's no ageism left. Right. Okay. It's not ableism. It's not ageism. Right. It's just that he's not.
No, it's his stutter. It's his stutter. That's what the liberals.
I would defend that I used to defend that all the time to people who would point that out. I used to defend him 6 months ago. I would have defended him.
Wow. Now
you've
come a long way in a short period.
I have nothing left for that man. I hate him.
Wow. Good. Well, good for you.
I woke up the day after the Super Bowl.
Crissa, how old are you?
I'm just 30.
Okay. So you're just 30. I actually remember Joe Biden doing the crime bill. I remember Joe Biden running for president back then, and all the plagiarism accusations coming up.
Right. Yeah.
I remember, like, he's always been a major war hawk. He's always been a centrist. The truth is that our Democrats would be conservatives pretty much anywhere else.
That's what I said. Yes.
And he wrote the bill that is the reason that you have about 3 generations of Black people that have been destroyed.
Yep.
And I mean, not just Black people, but
well, when people threaten Jim Crow South under Trump, if you Google Jim Crow and Biden, it's not good for him. It doesn't look good for him and his involvement.
Right.
I mean, the picture of him with.
This is a good tidbit of trivia for you, Crissa. He eulogized Strom Thurmond. Do you know who Strom Thurmond was?
Is that the Grand Master of the KKK?
No, that's David Duke.
He might as well have.
I was just
didn't
going to
come
say
full circle. He like condemned the KKK after a while. The Grand Master.
No, I mean,
the one you're talking about, I don't know who that is.
But Strom Thurmond is basically, he was the 20th century Thomas Jefferson. You know, he was extremely in favor of Black subjugation. Yet, of course, he fathered a child with his Black maid because, of course, he did. You know, just
he was there till he was 100 in Congress.
And all of he
was there forever.
You know, this is a guy who ran for president in 1948 against Harry Truman, because even though Harry Truman, in my opinion, is also one of the most overrated presidents we've ever had, he wasn't white supremacist enough for him. So he decided to run for president, and Truman still ended up winning. But it was very
Strom Thurmond was always like that. He fought against desegregation, and he and Joe Biden were buddies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and speaking of buddies, like, remember in the 2020 primaries, how this was what we should have known it was going to be a disaster, because Bernie kept saying over and over and over again, my good friend Joe.
Every time he says it here, I want to punch him. And I always say, I'm like, he is not your friend.
Yeah.
Oh, no, now look what you've done. Now look what you've
done.
Oh, no. I've been in Congress for the better part of longer than you were.
Oh my God. I'm too triggered. I can't take it anymore. I used to love this man so much.
It's hard. I have to sit with him, and he's the least offensive of the characters that I have to.
I have to understand. I don't have a lot of friends on Capitol Hill. I had to make,
Maybe it's because you're grumpy.
I don't have my coffee and bagel in the morning. I get a little upset. That happens. But
I'm so disappointed with you.
But my good friend Joe.
Joe is not your friend.
He's still trying very hard to
stay alive.
Yeah, exactly.
To stay alive. Can we have term limits and age limits? I know you have to be 35 to be president, but can we cut it off too?
For me, though,
we could talk term limits. What's interesting about it is I see both sides of the problem with that. See, if there was no money in politics, like if we didn't have corporate lobbyists, there's nothing wrong with someone necessarily wanting to be a public servant for their life if they're good at it and if their constituents still like them.
Right.
The problem is that that's all good in theory, but our elections are so corrupt, people don't participate. So it's sort of like term limits is this sort of Band-Aid that shouldn't even be necessary if we had a functioning democracy.
Well, exactly. I mean, so capitalism, again, I know broken record is the problem, but it's not even, but it's also like
that's what I tell you.
There are some other countries where they have better social safety nets, right? They actually have,
we have none.
Single payer, universal healthcare. Right. But the thing is, so it's like when I talk to some people about that, they're like, no, capitalism isn't the problem, because look, this country or that country, they have capitalism and they're doing better, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, okay, they're doing well in spite of capitalism because like they have non-capitalist, systems in place to help with like the healthcare, which is, it's not the profit motive there. Okay, so that's great. But it's also that we can't forget that like these Western European countries that we think of, like they're doing so great. And those are the ones Bernie talked about when he ran for president. He wants us to be more like them. The problem is, though, it's like that the wealth of these countries is built off of mass murder from imperialism around the world. And it's like, and this is what makes me a Marxist-Leninist as opposed to just like a social democrat or democratic socialist. Like the more you like actually learn what capitalism here means for, Black and brown people, indigenous people, people of color all around the world, it means mass slaughter. It means extreme exploitation, slavery, like horrible shit. And that's literally what we have going on here in Palestine, because that is settler colonialism. It is Western imperialism. It wouldn't have been created by Britain and continuing to be funded by Western countries, including obviously the United States, if it weren't a great way for them to have a military outpost and have more access to resources, to wealth, power in the Middle East. And so it all traces back to the same shit, which is capitalism, money, profits for these Western capitalists, which, by the way, predominantly Christian. And I think that's important to understand, too, because that's all the more reason it's definitely not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel, because it's, basically they're pawns for predominantly actually Christian white Westerners.
Yeah.
And, they use Israelis as their pawns and Palestinians are the pawns. Sorry.
I was used. I was used by the state of Israel as a tool in ethnic cleansing when I was 16 years old, because they take over groups. I was there with a high school in Israel program, and they took us to all sorts of places that now I know were occupied territory. This was, by the way, in 1987. It was the summer before the first Intifada, and I had no idea, none whatsoever. We were so stupid and such useful tools, and we're just going around and they're lying about this and lying about that because, and I don't know if you know this, Crissa, but in 1947, about that time, there was a renaming committee. And it was that, but in Yiddish or whatever the language, there was the renaming committee, and the renaming committee came into Palestine and renamed and recreated entire stories about places that aren't true.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, they brought back a dead language. They did all sorts of stuff. Like, it's absurd. And so I realized that, why did we always travel with an armed soldier? Why was that? Like, we thought that was cool. We have an armed soldier. Yeah, it's because we were where we ought not be. So now I know that I was planting trees in parts of East Jerusalem that were not meant for us to be. Wow. And so I have a lot of anger about being used as a tool in ethnic cleansing, which is why it's infuriating when I hear the term Palestinians use human shields. No, I was a human. Right. You take teenagers to the West Bank.
Colin, please drop the settling Gaza video.
So you know what I mean? So like, I know, because I was a human shield. If you feel the need to have an armed guard, and not just armed, we're talking assault rifle, armed person with your group, maybe you're somewhere you shouldn't be. Okay. And as a teenager, we just thought it was cool, right? Like, because what did I know?
I'm going to play a clip for you right now so you guys have an idea, especially for those of you watching, and hopefully the hundreds, if not thousands, that will see this. It is important to note how this is psychological warfare, that this is very deeply rooted shit, and how one comes to this idea.
Were you brainwashed, Sally? Were you brainwashed as a child?
Not near, I mean, to certain degrees, but definitely not like what you're describing. I grew up in a secular Jewish household, so I actually was fortunate. I was never indoctrinated into the religion of Judaism. For me, it's always been about like the heritage, the ethnicity, the culture. We lit the menorah on Hanukkah. We celebrated Passover, but that was really the extent. I'm from St. Louis.
Okay, that's why. Okay, that's like Jews in Texas, because when I lived in Texas and I met Jews in Texas, there's Texas Jews and there's Jews in Texas, but like, it's a whole different thing when you're talking South Florida.
The Jews,
it's a whole different animal.
The Jewish populations in New York, specifically Brooklyn, South Florida,
which is the same. That's the same people.
And in Chicago are the most powerful, and they're the ones that fund AIPAC.
Oh, we celebrated Meir Kahane. Oh,
you celebrated what?
Meir Kahane. Do you know who he is?
I do not.
Yeah, this was somebody who was like one of the leaders of, I forget, was it the Haganah? One of the terrorist groups that started Israel. Oh, wow. Like, we were in it. What do you want to play that's going to infuriate me?
Well, but we have to do it.
I'm ready to be mad.
I'm not blinking.
Oh, this
because what he says is not smart. There is no chance whatsoever for a two-state solution. It seems that he takes some paper and reads, and someone forgot to tell him in the administration that it's not relevant, and he keeps reading from it. He reiterates, in my eyes, in an embarrassing manner.
I agree.
We have now 800,000 Jews living in 250 settlements in Judea and Samaria. Where will you put, Mr. Blinken, where will you put your two-state solution? Where are you going to do it?
In the West Bank, settlers have often gotten government recognition for settlements they built illegally after the fact. It's not government policy to allow settlements in Gaza, but Vice says she may not wait and may take a similar approach there.
What we are going to do, I'm telling you secretly, we are going to squat close to the border. Right now, there is a border that prevents us from entering. But maybe the northern part of Gaza, which is actually not under any formal sovereignty, it's called the no man's land. So maybe over there, it will be easier.
Nothing contributes to anti-Semitism more than women like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, nothing comes.
I will say I completely agree with her on one. Blinken is useless, and
well, yeah,
I agree with her about that, and the fact that there is no possibility of a two-state solution. There never was. That was
absolutely
right.
That was always made up by the Zionists as like sort of like a talking point to keep people out of their business.
Right. As they kept stealing more and more land the whole time.
Well, she's right about that there can't be, that she is correct factually that is not a possibility.
Yeah. Well, I think two things struck me, so number one, when she criticizes Blinken, it is funny because it's the same way I've heard Zionists criticize Biden. So if you ever even give the most mild criticism of Israel, even if it's like fake and you like Biden, he doesn't actually give a shit about telling Israel to not do anything. Like he'll be like, don't do that, but he doesn't care, like obviously. But that's what's so funny is like Blinken and Biden, any Democrat, if they even say something that doesn't sound like, yes, Israel can do absolutely anything they want at all times. If they stray from that, now they're going to be an enemy. So it's like, that's so funny. But then the other thing is just in a way, I can appreciate when they say the quiet part out loud. Yeah. At least she's fully honest, because this is what Zionism is. It is land theft, and it's always been that. And it is always, they want all of it. And in fact, they want even more than what a lot of people realize. That's why they're in Lebanon, bombing over there in Lebanon. And now they're bombing Syria. And it's like, I don't think people understand this greater Israel. It's not going to be enough. They just want more and more and more. But yeah, it's land theft. They're going to kill as many Palestinians as they need to take all of this land. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't think I actually think they're bombing Lebanon and Syria for different reasons. I think that the goal is to drag Iran into a war. I think that's always been the goal. And I think that you've got certain people that are still in power, that have been in power behind the scenes. Again, the real people. And they have been foaming at the mouth to go to war with Iran, which we know is completely unwinnable.
And to pull the United States in, right?
Yeah, that part.
So the way to do that is to provoke an action by Lebanon or Syria or Iraq. And so that's why. But now we know that we can't directly go in, like bomb Iran. We're not going to do that. But we'll sit there and let Israel poke at the others to see if we can. That's what we do. That's us. That's us in the world. We sit there. And so it's like, but that's why I think we're bombing there. Because I think that for the most part in Israel, they have accepted that it's the river to the sea.
Listen,
that's why they hate that phrase.
We have a plethora of, we have everybody across the political spectrum that follows our show. And we're grateful for that, because I think it's important to always stick to, Crissa, like you were saying, what's the point of crapping on, the ignorant Trump racist who lives in Missouri? Like,
how does that help us?
It doesn't do anything. So
They're not going to change their mind.
Bible town their entire life. It's the people who control capital who want us to hate each other that are meanwhile literally the ones who are, giving it to us in the backside. So when somebody like BW who watches our show, we appreciate you being here, but when you make a statement like this is the type of ignorant shit that comes from the right that makes you look like a bunch of morons.
Oh God!
What? We're there first. It's literally a settler colonial project. They weren't there. They were gone.
Here's the thing. They were there and they're still there and they're Palestinians and those are our people. Now, some of them over the years converted to Christianity and then following that converted to Islam. That happened. There are still Palestinian Jews. They're brown. They're Mizrahi Jews, which by the way, what was his name? Are treated like second-class citizens in Israel proper.
Yeah,
always
true.
have been. So this is about white Jews. You're correct.
Yes,
and I swear to you, that there were not white Jews there. You know how I know? Because they get skin cancer out the yin yang. We're not meant to be there.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. And the Jews that were there, that some of them that still were up until the Palestinian Jews.
Colin, drop the Zionist rage clip, please.
So that's the truth. And the Zionists treated the Palestinian Jews just as shitty as the Muslims and the Christians. The only reason they let some of them stay is to keep their numbers up. That's why they brought them in from Ethiopia. So don't tell me they were there first. Those white Jews, they were not there first.
Good for you. You're exactly right.
Yeah, that's easy history to look up.
This is what white, like I said, I'm not a woke guy, but this is what real Karen level white privilege looks like.
Oh, here we go.
This woman.
Oh, I have seen this. Oh, I can't look.
Israel is terrorist. Israel is terrorist.
And again, I don't want to be stereotypical, but she's not just Jewish. She is affluent Jewish, and she is in another country who are calling what's happening in Gaza.
Where is this?
Tokyo.
Oh, it's Tokyo.
So this is Tokyo. So this is person.
Oh, that is privilege. What is that?
Right.
Just visiting. I'm here visiting, and now I'm going to get in your Asian faces and tell you how stupid you are because I'm a American who knows what's best. Or she could be Israeli for all we know. And you know the amazing
Israeli is a made-up thing. That's not a real thing.
Fair enough.
Right.
I was raised to believe
Can I say Semitic?
You can't, but except that we're all Semitic. I was actually raised to believe that Palestine wasn't real and that Palestinians weren't a real thing. And the reality is Israel is not real, and Israelis are a made-up, entitled ethnicity based completely on land theft and white supremacy.
The only thing you have to know about her disposition in this photograph is everything that we've been saying all along. It gets to a much more deeply rooted problem here, which Crissa, the Philadelphia suburbs. I'm from central New Jersey. I grew up in Manhattan. And when you grow up in the St. Louis suburbs, St. Louis is a great example of one of
Never
the.
Been to St. Louis. I gotta go.
The arch is cool.
Yeah, it is.
But I was rejected from Washington U, and I think I've held that against you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's too bad.
Anything that runs along the Mississippi, whether it's what happens in the northwest suburbs versus what happens in East St. Louis, what happens in Memphis versus West Memphis, what happens in New Orleans, there is this wealth gap that exists in society that translates into where people will land on political issues. And this particular issue
is very,
very class-centric in so many ways.
Yeah.
So the Jewish community that supports Israel and what's going on right now almost universally are from the affluent class.
Yes.
Pretty much everybody else does not agree with this, including the majority of the Jewish population, even though that isn't what's presented in the media.
Right.
Because this is a class war, nothing more, which was what Bernie's message was in 2015 and 2016, and why it was so powerful, and why they could absolutely afford to let Trump get in there, because Trump's, he may say shit that speaks to working class populism, but his actions as a governor of the United States is one of the rich and powerful.
Yeah.
You can't have a commander-in-chief like Bernie Sanders from 2016 running this country, because it would completely change the dynamic in which this is done. The fact that this is still going on in Gaza just goes to show you that it's a rich man's game and they control everything.
Yes, and like Sally said, capitalism is the enemy. So this can't be reformed. You can't reform a broken system. It has to be dismantled. And a lot of people aren't ready to accept that and all that comes along with that. But our dollar is the only power we have. I'm not convinced that my vote in November is going to change a single fucking thing, but definitely not somebody dying today. It's not we're not going to vote our way out of this crisis, and it's our fault. We are the bad guy, and that's another huge pill that's hard for people to swallow. But once you do, that's why I made that video, to put up a reflection for people so that they could see the ugliness. That's what you look like when you do that. You're not focused on the genocide. You're focused on voting in November. You think your one vote is going to make any difference whatsoever.
But that's the class war.
That's privilege. That's the point. And then because people that are, and there's definitely like religious Jews that are not wealthy, that are Zionists, and there's religious Jews that are not. But just as a tidbit of information, Crissa, just there are more Christian Zionists in this country than there are Jews in the world.
And that is the perfect transition, because we have to cover this. Colin, drop Ogle's clip, please. This is
not Andrew.
And as we've said, we are friends with Medea Benjamin of Code Pink.
This guy,
Andrew Ogles,
interview
from Tennessee.
Friend Matt Ho, because he made it very clear that it's just these are psychopaths.
Yeah, this is getting worse by the day.
These are psychopaths.
Yes, while there is the component of the Jewish Zionist culture, there is also the Christian Zionist culture, and that is much more prevalent without question.
People don't realize it. There's a lot of them.
That is, if you want to talk, I feel that a lot of what is said about the GOP is overblown. However, when it comes to Christian Zionism, when it comes to the Christian right, that is where the line has to be drawn. And the fact that Alabama Supreme Court just declared that frozen embryos are children the other day, this is the level of psychosis that goes into not separating church and state. And this is what happens when you elect representatives who truly believe that maybe the end times are coming in their lifetime.
Oh my God, just kill them all.
This is Congressman
I can't.
I believe he is in Tennessee, I want to say. He's got a very, very strong opinion about what's going on in Gaza.
Clear, Hamas raped and murdered babies.
That's fake news.
No evidence of that.
I've seen the footage and you haven't. I've seen the footage.
You've seen footage of
shredded children's bodies.
I always like I've seen the footage and you haven't. You mean like Joe Biden said, I've seen the cut off heads of the And even though his own administration says, no, stop saying that, it didn't happen.
He still said it.
Still said it anyway.
That's because it was programmed and he's Weekend at Bernie's. But this douche,
he's saying, I've seen the videos. And
I've seen it and you haven't.
Don't you think if there was actual footage of, let's say, just a decapitated baby, that they would blur out what would need to be blurred out, but that wouldn't be blasted on every single nation.
Absolutely.
It would be the ultimate political football. They'd say, look, we have to go destroy Hamas.
I actually like these because I never knew who this guy was, and now I do.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, here we go.
And that's my taxpayer dollars. I'm going to bomb those kids.
So I think we should kill them all, if that makes you feel better. Everybody, Hamas and Palestinians have been attacking Israel for 20 years. It's time to pay the piper.
It's time to pay the piper.
They haven't paid enough. They need to.
Well, you know what I always say when somebody is so ready, willing, and able to kill innocent people, or just people in general, listen, ROTC's right down the block.
I wish there was somebody like me walking next to him. Why is she being so demure?
I think she's probably in shock because the fact that he actually said it. But just like you guys mentioned, I prefer people who just say it, who just outright say it. Because Democrats Republicans will spit in your face or shoot you in the face, but Democrats will stab you in the back.
Yes.
And these people are out with it.
Carissa, you're close. You're close. Republicans will stab you in the heart. Democrats will stab you in the back. and tell you it was the Republicans who stabbed him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bars.
Yeah, but also this is why we can't play into the whole Hamas are the bad guys thing, because it's like some people, they think they're being helpful and they think they're anti-Zionist and they think they oppose Israel's genocide, but then they spend so much time like agreeing with Zionists, like, oh yeah, no, Hamas absolutely horrible, I condemn them, October 7th, horrible, and it's like you're just missing the entire point. There would not ever be a Hamas if we didn't have this entire settler, colonial, genocidal, ethnic cleansing, apartheid, occupying force state in the first place. And that is the root of the problem. And it's like,
no, they think history started on October 7th.
Exactly.
Well, according to Michael Rappaport, that's when.
But you know what's interesting though is now it's going to unravel. Now it's unraveling, because now you also see the case in front of the ICJ about the occupation. That now you've got 50 something countries that are, and again, those have no teeth. Okay. Like I'm not delusional about those things, but you never saw that before. No. You didn't see a bunch of states going after Israel for the occupation. So
they're not finding their way.
And this is what I say it all the time: pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And Israel had its Jewish state. It had its Jewish state, but they had to be greedy fucks, and they have to be where they ought not be. Instead of just being nice and letting the Palestinians do their own thing, they had to have everything. And now they're going to get nothing, because that's ultimately what happens. And so it's going to start unraveling now for them. And that will be the only sort of like light at the end of the tunnel, is that this is facilitating that, just like how I feel Trump facilitates the revolution here. It's like, it's just now people can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we knew.
You can't gaslight us now. We have it. We have it in our phone every day.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but scrolling through dead bodies and children with their faces burned off, and then seeing my representative, John Fetterman, trolling.
Oh, he's the worst.
It's like, you're not cute. It's not funny anymore. Like, I call them, I harass them. I know I'm on some list for sure. I call them every single day to tell them that they are war criminals. I voted for them. I was excited to vote for him.
Yeah.
Now I'm so ashamed. So people say shame doesn't work to radicalize. It did for me. I mean, I'm very, very ashamed of being so ignorant. And
here's the thing, and I agree. Like, fuck John Fetterman. He is absolutely disgusting, and he actually pretended to be a progressive and all. Okay, but my whole thing is, like, I would say, don't waste your time calling and what I'm saying is, like, I feel like he does not give a shit about your phone calls. And he specifically now getting in their faces is great. Like, if you're able to do that, like, I love, we've got all these protesters at Nancy Pelosi's home every day and interrupting Hillary Clinton, stuff like that is awesome. But my whole thing is, like, okay, we see Bernie still won't even call it a genocide. He's still praising Joe Biden and demanding we vote for Biden and trying to pretend like Biden is progressive. We still see, like, sadly, even Rashida Tlaib, okay, even her, she actually, like, I just posted something about this today. Like, I've loved her and she's been great. And she's the only Palestinian, woman in Congress at all. And it's a lot for her, but it's like, even she is doing the whole Hamas are bad guys thing and is, like, repeating the lies about the systemic rapes by Hamas. And I think that she feels like she has to do that. And my whole point, though, is, listen, it's the entire fucking system. And like,
it's just cathartic, honestly, when I call to.
No, and that's fine. Like, I'm not, if by all means, like, I just want, and in general, my message is, like, calling your representatives is not going to do shit. No. Like, I mean, you're just doing it just for that. Like, you're not trying to, like, he's not going to.
I know, no. He said he's the last man standing on the side of Israel.
Yeah.
He said that.
He's disgusting.
So,
but it's like, the fact is, like, even so, like, my representative is Cori Bush. And, you know, and I think that she has been great for what she is within the system, but like, and she did very mild criticism of Israel. And now she's about to lose she's getting primaried by this sellout AIPAC shell piece of shit, Wesley Bell, who I know, by the way, in real life and used to seem like a decent guy. But no, he's a complete sellout, because that's the thing, is like, even someone, if they dare to mildly criticize Israel, they're going to get primaried, and AIPAC they've got so much cash to buy out. And so what's even the point? And then we got people like AOC, you know, they're praising Biden, telling us to vote for Biden. It's all a mess. None of this is going to save us. Like, we need a socialist movement. We must work on building that and moving forward. This system is fucked.
Yeah, let's finish it.
We have to finish watching this douchebag.
Who's been attacking Palestine?
Israel is an occupier. Palestine was there before Israel.
Your naivety doesn't make it true.
My what? There's a genocide happening right now. Do you think I care about?
They're starving women and children. How is that going after
Over
Hamas?
300 healthcare workers. Shame on you. You have no heart.
How is turning off water and power on pregnant women going after Hamas?
AIPAC zombie.
Death to Hamas.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't
understand. He's completely
First of all,
ignorant.
I never want to judge anybody, but I swear to God, when that guy says something like "your ignorance is showing," it's like,
No,
dude,
you're
you run into that Bible
what?
Belt stereotype. It's like,
See,
so
I love
bad.
somebody to talk to me that way.
I feel like you'd fight him in the street. I would.
Well, the truth is that nobody has talked to me that way. Now, I don't know if it's because they just don't think it's a good idea, or I just haven't been in the right place at the right time to be spoken to that way. But I assure you, shooing me would not go well. No. No, that would not go well.
I think that Hamas is what it is.
What is it?
They are what they are. They are
a resistance group. It's a resistance group.
They are a resistance group. Yeah.
They are not a terrorist organization.
They are a resistance group who might have conducted terroristic acts, but they are not.
Another man's freedom fighter, and it just depends on what side of the wall you're on.
I understand that, but my
or
point
what color
is
you
that
are.
they were created due to an occupation. Like this whole idea of like, oh, Hamas just came out of nowhere. No, that's not true. And it's the same thing with ISIS. It's the same thing with the Taliban. Everything is all interconnected. Everything.
Yeah, they were the Mujahideen that we funded and that we trained.
Yes.
And then the Mujahideen turned into ISIS and Al Qaeda and the Taliban. Yep, 100%. It's always connected. It's always us. We always create the shit.
I think the best way to conclude the conversation is to figure out how we are going to bridge this going forward. Because one of the worst things, as I mentioned at the top, that we have on the political left in particular, is that we do not figure out how to put differences aside and coalition build. There are too many
purists.
Yeah, there's the purist thing. There's also, I also believe that there are people, whether it's being directly compensated by the State Department or not, that there are people that will infiltrate groups and basically ensure that it never grows into anything substantial, that it could actually be a threat to the system. I do not support Marxism, Leninism, but I do support a hybrid system. I do believe that the human spirit still demands some type of a free market. However, the system that we have is broken. It is not fixed. You can't fix it.
But it's not broken. It's working.
Meant to do exactly
That's so true.
I'm going further to the left. You're wrong about capitalism.
Listen, listen. You ladies can attack me all you want.
I'm just saying you're wrong.
No, it's just true. The system is working as it was designed to work for the rich capitalists.
Regulated better to protect their people.
Here's where I'm going with this. There was a point where I think between FDR and JFK that the system was somewhat balanced. Not fully, not even close, but there was an opportunity.
We didn't have the wealth inequality.
You didn't have what you had.
It was a lot more proportionate.
And
there was a point when it was
Kennedy's assassination coupled with Johnson taking us into Vietnam was basically the start. And then Reagan took it to a whole other level. And then Clinton, who never gets the type of criticism that he absolutely deserves. The policies that were enacted in the 1990s completely trumped.
But you realize what all of those things are, what you're saying is capitalism.
I was
just going to say that.
But he's saying it but what I'm looking at is it's the progression regardless of who was there.
This is late stage. We are in late stage capitalism. And by the way, let's also not forget what did FDR do with the Japanese people? I just don't, let's not pretend as though, literally every single United States president is a war criminal and a horrible racist piece of shit. Literally every single one.
Have you read Margaret Kimberly's Prejudential?
No, I have not.
Highly recommend, guys. Margaret Kimberly, she's a friend. She was on just last week for President's Day. She's amazing. Her book is called Prejudential. And what's cool, I did the audio and it's her doing it, which I really love. But it's you could pick up each president is a chapter. So let's say you're just interested. You're like, oh, I wonder what it was like then. And it talks about each president in terms of race, in terms of slavery at the time, in terms of, it's really good.
Oh,
it's a quick read. It's not, big, but it's really cool.
The details that we don't actually learn about in history.
I love that.
What about all of the labor movements? What's the reality of work? Because it's all class struggle. And obviously it's disproportionately, people of color that are Black people and indigenous people of color who suffer the most. And it's always been that way. That's why I feel when white liberals are suddenly talking about they're scared of fascism under Trump. Fascism has always been here. This has always been a fascist state. Just because you yourself didn't notice it, you weren't impacted by it.
Right.
Doesn't mean other people weren't.
Right.
It's always been that way.
Hence the lady that was screaming her head off at Japanese people for saying that Israel is a terrorist state. That's a person who lives in a bubble. And my point is, I support a hybrid system. That's what I support. I would support a system that's similar to what.
That's a two-state solution.
Exactly. There's really no such thing. What is done to maintain it?
A free cap. He dreams of people being able to live in a capitalist world where they can be wealthy, but not totally screw poor people.
There is no rich without poor. These things go together. These super rich people, they get rich by exploiting our working class people.
I do not.
And imperialism is because of capitalism. It's hard to.
You could call me again. Like I said, I believe in a hybrid system. I do not. I believe in equal opportunity. I do not believe in equal.
Okay, just to be clear, though, there is no hybrid system because socialism literally means that the workers own the means of production, and therefore there is no capitalist to own these businesses, these companies. Correct. There is no capitalist to exploit the workers and then take the surplus value that the workers create with their labor. So there's no such thing as a hybrid system because socialism is worker power.
But I don't have any problem with worker co-op or
what he's talking about,
then be a socialist.
He can't say that. I think for me, the way to at least be reasonable with people, again, because I can't be a purist. I have to reason with people. But the idea is that you take societal goods off the for-profit table. So, for example, healthcare, education, corrections, things like that should never be for-profit. However, let's say somebody wants to sell widgets, and these widgets that you don't need, and they want to charge $100 for a widget. I have no problem with people.
Who's taking the money for it? That's the thing. It's workers should be able to get the fruits of their labor. Yes. So I agree with and there can be no moral and no just class-based society.
But that could still be a profit. See, here's what I'm saying. So let's say you take profit motive off the table for goods and services that are necessities, like social goods, right? And let's say you have profit motive in non-essentials, okay? Those profits can still be worker-owned. I have no problem. I'm saying in general that necessities should not ever be for profit, regardless of whether it's worker owned or, you know what I'm saying? But I have no problem with I
hear you. But the problem is that if you allow for any capitalism, they're going to keep chipping away at
I
the
know.
little bit of things that aren't for profit. And this is why you see like, even in countries where they do have single payer healthcare, like how the NHS, like there's a movement there to get rid of that, right? And like you see, and in Canada, I know there's concern about that. Where, capitalists keep trying to take more and more from the public sector for themselves. I mean, this is neoliberalism, but it's like it really, you have to get rid of the whole thing because because it is based in exploitation of the working class, and truly no class-based system can ever be just. You can't have different classes of people. Like that doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't.
And like to what Peter said about how do we bridge a gap, because I think that's important too. Remind people of how we're all suffering. They're suffering over there. Like my enemy is not the Republican in the rural, part of my state. That's not my enemy. Our enemy is literally the 1%, the billionaires that have. We need to remind each other that we're all actually in this together, as cliche as that sounds.
Yeah.
We really need to be class solidarity.
Yes.
Let them know we really are all suffering. Are we not? You want to make these people richer?
Yeah.
Really. So I think the greatest thing that's come out of this horrible situation for me is the death of celebrity culture, the death of influencer culture, because we see now, it's like the veil's lifted. You don't give a fuck about anybody outside of your little bubble. That's clear now. We got it. Okay. And we don't want people, we don't want celebrities to speak on politics. I do, especially when it involves a genocide. I would like to know. I would like to know.
Yes.
I'm listening to a Zionist right now. I would like to know so that I can no longer support them, because the only power I have is in my dollar, which is very few. That's the only power we have. So in my opinion, I am being much more kind and considerate to people who I used to belittle, honestly, because they're not my enemy. They might be hateful, and I have no time for homophobic or transphobic bigots and all that. I have no time. But there are people, and that's what's encouraging to me, is that I say blue MAGA and red MAGA because, regular MAGA and blue MAGA. I think there's more of us. I think there's way more of us that aren't a part of those cults. Do you know what I mean? I think there's way more of us that don't belong to those segmented cults. I find that to be encouraging.
That is very true. Most people are not. Yeah.
Most people are decent. Most people are just going about their lives and trying to get their kids through life from point A to point B. Most people are just busting ass to make ends meet. We know that for a fact. Most people don't vote. Most people don't care because it doesn't matter. They're working 3 jobs.
There were several million Bernie primary voters that crossed over to vote for Trump. Did they do it because they were bigots? No, they did it because they're desperate for some working class populism in this country.
And he lied about it, but they all lie. But,
no, I totally told the truth.
But the point is, and we get in like Florida, for example, I argue it all the time. We are not a red state. Our legislature has been hijacked by red people. Okay. Our state is actually quite populist purple because in the same year we voted for Trump, we also passed a $15 minimum wage. So I mean, I'm just saying, we need to stop.
There's absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I don't like when I never liked when people said all of Florida, could just, that's not right. You shouldn't lump everybody together. Just I can't say all Israelis are evil. I would never do that. I know there's plenty of them who don't agree with what's going on. I hope that people see that there are Americans who care, that are against our own government. We're standing up against our own government. We realize that we're the bad guy and we can't undo the harm, but we can try to stop it now. We could try to stop the genocide.
Yeah, it's about power structures, and that's where the focus must lie. And it's I don't care who somebody votes for. I really don't care, because what I do care about, what are you advocating for? What are you actually putting out there that you're promoting? And obviously, certain things, it's just not okay to promote, like Zionism, not okay to promote. But and pardon my dogs going crazy.
No, we're talking.
I was just gonna say, it's about power structures, and I don't care who somebody votes for, because both the Democrats and the Republicans are serving capital. They are both owned by billionaires, multimillionaires, and corporations. And so it's so aggravating, like this pretend, like in the
It's
media.
theatrical argument.
Oh my, exactly.
They hate each other. But you'll notice that it's always 51% and 49%, and there's never really a majority. It's always like teetering one way or the other, and it's all theater. Exactly.
Yeah, they serve the same big donors, the same rich capitalists. It's such a joke.
I know. I'm definitely becoming, like, I'm telling you, that's why I don't label myself, because I think if I did, he'd be furious if I said it out loud. I won't say it. I won't say it. But it's definitely left.
I play in the big boy sandbox. I'm in commercial real estate.
But the reality is in what I do and where I am and what I'm trying to accomplish here locally. Some people, it's like, especially with a lot of the Jewish population, you really need to hold their hands, and going full on all out there is not necessarily the best way to kind of get some of these people to realize that they've been lied to.
Oh, sure.
And it's just our demographic is such that if I came out and said I'm a da-da-da-da, then that would be it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I wouldn't normally in everyday life just put it out there without it being a conversation about the details. I'm not walking around saying, "Hi, I'm a Marxist-Leninist. It's nice to meet you."
Nuance is dead and people are dumb. And that is the problem, which is why I avoid labels. And I'll say, I could tell you how I feel about certain things, but I'm not going to label myself and give you the opportunity to box me into something and just make all sorts of assumptions.
I actually love that because Imani, the creator I mentioned earlier, who I think is she should be president if I had any choice. I mean, I love her. She had said that people assume that she's on the left because she advocates for leftist and progressive values. However, she's always said, I'm for the disability community. And so I'm learning all the time of these intersections that I just wasn't paying attention to. Because I saw a comment that just popped up about the high tops that Trump put out there.
Oh my God.
Like, that's what's been the focus for liberals. Liberals for the past week. And it's been absolutely insane to me. Like, how do you care so much about
and all that?
They've been obsessed with him for the past year. They've done nothing else
but help him get back into the White House.
They've done nothing else but worry about Trump and get everybody to be so scared of Trump. See, that's the thing. The Democrats want you to be scared of Trump, and the Republicans want you to be scared of immigrants. And everybody is just, we're punching sideways and they're punching down.
When you should be scared of our broken economic and political system. That's what you should be afraid of.
I just equally dislike everybody. That's what I tell.
I'm an equal opportunity hater too now.
Well, I think about that a lot. Like, it's like every time we're like, oh my God, I don't like people. It's like, well, is it that we don't like people, or is it that we don't like people under this system of capitalism because it has made us, it pits us against each other, and we have so much propaganda and it has messed with people's minds so much. Like, I feel like we have to envision a specific society so that we can work toward that society. And I think that if we had a society built for the collective, like functioning for everyone, we would like people.
Well, here's what I say. I like persons. There's persons.
I like that.
But when all of those persons come together and become a people, then I don't like them anymore. So that's sort of what happens. Like,
it's the us versus them stuff.
Very
much.
But when it's really the haves and the have not. That's all it is.
That's why I'm saying it's class-based society is the problem. And anytime you have classes, you're going to have certain groups that are disproportionately in that underclass. And so, like what Imani said about, she won't say she's left or like, that's very much on the left. That is socialism. What she's talking about, it's the only way people with disabilities, don't have to struggle just to survive. Like, when your worth is only tied to, are you going to make profits for a capitalist? Exactly. And let's also be clear, Democrats are definitely not on the left. Liberals are not on the left at all. And Democrats, it's like capitalism itself is a right-wing system.
Correct.
And you're only on the left, Like, that's the reality. You're only on the left if you're anti-capitalist, pro-socialism.
Right. Well, we don't have a left party. We don't even have a Labor Party. We have two right-wing parties.
Exactly. Exactly.
But remember, before we go, you have to vote for Joe. I know that.
Yeah, right.
Vote for no matter who.
Make me.
I support Dr. Cornel West. I say it because I promote Dr. Cornel West. I support him. It's because I like the message he promotes.
Yeah, he's good.
I like what he's out there talking about. I like when he speaks, he touches my soul. I like that. That's the message I want put out in the world. If he is not on my ballot, I will deal with that at the time. Most likely would go green because I know they'll at least be on my ballot. But there is no universe wherein I'm voting for Joe. There is no universe.
No, I made up my mind too. I want to put that out there too. There's no way. There was the day after the Super Bowl when it really just like,
you were like,
I hate him now. I hate him now.
Oh yeah.
Like I genuinely hate, and I don't want to have hate in my heart, but I do. I completely.
But you realize you don't hate him. You hate what he stands for.
You know what he says and these commercials that he's putting out.
He says what they tell him to say. He says what anybody standing there would be saying.
I don't know. At this point, I'm convinced he's just saying whatever he can get out of his mouth.
Well, I think he really believes, like, he's been there for a long time. Like, that's just him. He really is a piece of shit.
And he's too compromised. Like,
even a piece of shit to him. Ask Tara Reid.
If I'm on your ballot in November, you might want to consider voting for a Kennedy. It's been a long time.
Not until you get your head out of Rabbi Shmuley's tuchus.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's so gross. Yeah.
Rabbi Shmuley is the most disgusting.
He's the worst. Oh, he's disgusting. Yeah. I was just gonna say real quick.
I have to be the asshole here because this is a show, and we can definitely
have you, ladies.
You can have
I like you.
Yes. But
this is fun. Yeah.
Crissa, Sally, tell us how people can find
all of
you,
your stuff links
how they can support your work, and we will definitely have you back.
Yeah, will you come back, Crissa? Will you come back?
I would love it.
Felt like overwhelmed. Like, I know this is new to you, but you're really cute, and I'd love to have you come back.
Thank you. No, I love it. I love learning from you guys. It definitely makes me feel more sane. I'll just say that because I need it. I need that evolution. I need to know that it's just not me going crazy in my head. Mm-hmm. But my socials on TikTok. So yeah, my first platform got nuked. It was Crissa Explains It All. You were right. It was based off of the 90s show. It's now Crissa Explains Nothing. And I actually love that because I am not doing, I'm not trying to. I also have a backup in case that account goes down again, because yes, the white liberals are just as soft as we've always apparently been told we are. They targeted my account. They mass reported that video because they couldn't handle seeing themselves and got my account taken down. So it's just Crissa Explains Nothing 2.0. I know it's not clever at all, but those are my two on TikTok. And on Twitter, it's Crissa Explains 0 with the number 0. So thank you. And yeah, I'll definitely come back. I'd love you guys, actually.
And then maybe you'll let me wear my watermelon.
You have to. Or your kafia. It's not cultural appropriation this time. Like, they want us to.
That's right.
Makes me wear a uniform here. I wear watermelons when I'm out and about.
You guys look good. It's a good color combo.
Channel,
Please.
Sally, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Sally Hates Capitalism on Instagram.
I followed you, yeah.
And I have a backup on Instagram. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I have a backup on Instagram now with it too. Sally Hates Capitalism 2, because I got worried about them. They started threatening stuff. I have a Facebook page of Sally Hates Capitalism. It's not. I haven't had it that long. It's not that huge, but it's there. And on Twitter, I am just Hates Capitalism. The Sally part made it too long. They wouldn't take it. But and then on TikTok, I have 2. I am Sally Hates Capitalism 2, and then I'm also Sally Hates Capitalism 4. 1 and 3 are gone. They did exist, but yeah.
I followed you on 2 and 4.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
I did.
That's what I get.
Like, I gotta get.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, I started the 2, and then I thought the 2 was gone, and I created the 3. And then later the 2, they put it back, but then they got rid of the 3. It's so stupid.
That I live for the world where we don't need to do that.
I know, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can I just say really fast, just because we were talking about, you mentioned voting for Dr. Cornel West. I would just like to mention Claudia de la Cruz and Karina Garcia. They are running for president and vice president on the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Sadly, they won't be on the.
My ticket, I would vote for them. Like, if
I would say they're not going to be on the Missouri state ballot, but I'm going to write them in anyway. And they make it clear that it is less just about voting in the election for them. Rather, they use all of the attention on the presidential election to try to build a truly socialist proletariat working class movement. And so they do good work. PSL, Party for Socialism and Liberation. So.
And on top of that, I just want to add that for those people who care and want to actually get out in the streets, both Claudia and Dr. Cornel West were at the DC rally that I attended with so many people. And there's another one on March 2nd. And this is like a bigger, people really want, millions need to show up, like, period, because and hopefully we have, it's not too late, but
it's like, how many times do we have to keep doing this? Oh my God, it keeps going. It's insane.
But I'm not going to stop.
Well,
I'm going to stop talking.
Exactly.
It is going to take time, but you know what? Every day that goes by, more and more people are seeing the system, not just what's going on in Gaza for what it is, but it is coming to a head. And we're very appreciative of ladies like yourselves who are continuing to speak truth to power. We all have a role to play. Let's keep playing it, and we will definitely be.
We'll have you guys back for sure.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Actually, that is your job to regulate time. If you didn't regulate time, imagine if we were canvassing and you weren't regulating time. If we were canvassing and you weren't regulating time, I'd be standing at the same house having dinner there and like sleeping over before we even got to
We're going to have to skip the Bernie segment because, again, we all know the deal with Bernie. At this point, he's not fighting the way that he has to fight. But we have to cover, before we go, Julian Assange. Those of you who I assume have been paying attention, and probably a lot of you who are in the political arena have been, right now that Julian is on trial for his life in the UK Royal Justice Court, I think is what it's called. Something along those lines.
They wear the silly wigs.
They wear well, yes, we do.
Yeah, whatever.
The trials of Julian Assange, a death sentence for democracy. America's full assault on media freedom and access to information and truth is once again on full display. I think this image really does say a lot. So it's kind of like a Statue of Liberty with a almost what's the Dial V for Vendetta guy?
Anonymous.
Anonymous, yeah. He's like an anonymous Phantom of the Opera, free Assange.
He's a crying mime.
June of 2022, when Russians formed ministry.
All right, but wait. But the problem is that we're not going to have a decision on this for a while. Like they heard the arguments, but we're not having a decision.
So how long do you think they'll actually delay this before?
A month.
So you think it'll be a month before they?
Well, I mean, it can. I mean, they're going to put it off as long. The more that they can drag it out, the better off they are. It's like such a political loser for them at this point. But they have their heels so stuck in. They're like ridiculous at this point, and they look ridiculous. We look ridiculous. The whole world thinks we're ridiculous. But I do think that what has changed is how much Australia is gotten involved and has been speaking out for Julian. It's like, welcome to the party, guys. But they finally, it seems like in Australia, are sticking up for him.
But is that the off-ramp? Is the off-ramp to basically say, okay, we're not going to send you to America, but we're going to send you back to Australia?
Well, first of all, that's not the off-ramp. That's where he would probably go. That's where his family is, or whatever. But I don't know. I know that they're full of distractions. I know they're full of crap. I don't believe them. And I'm, basically prepared to be like setting up camp in the friggin' Eastern District of Virginia and making this like my life's mission, because this is ridiculous. It will be the end of the First Amendment. I am not kidding about that. I've been saying this for the better part of 10 years.
Keep an eye on everybody.
This is a really important situation.
Keep an eye on everybody who says that Julian Assange should go to prison. If extradited, the Australian-born Assange faces up to 175 years in prison on spying charges, which again is pretty rich coming from a nation with an extensive history of illegally spying on its own citizens. In reality, Assange's only crime was to utilize WikiLeaks to expose the truth on U.S. military crimes, as in the notorious Collateral Murder video that was released in 2010. And if we're being honest, this is also retribution on the part of Hillary Clinton for exposing the systemic corruption within the Democratic Party during the 2016 primary season, in which they systematically screwed Bernie Sanders out of any chance of winning.
But that's not even what this is all about with Assange.
But I'm saying that the retribution
component. Well, that just made it all the worse, because that made it so that both sides hate him. He used to have it so that only one side hated him. Now both sides hate him, and which means he's doing his job, actually. That's how it should be if you're actually exposing shit. But yeah, no, he pissed off people in power, and that's what happens. And he threatens capital, and this is what happens.
But as Al Jazeera points out, in the end, the U.S. can't afford to have its global do-gooder disguise too relentlessly or thoroughly challenged, since too much access to information and the truth would reveal the nation would relieve the nation of its alibi for wreaking havoc across the world. Regardless of the final outcome, the protracted U.S. war on Assange has already set a chilling precedent in terms of press freedom and other essential liberties.
Yeah, it's a problem.
That's what it's about.
It's a problem. Well, and the reality is even Obama knew this. Obama knew this, because what's going to happen now is you're going to have to be prosecuting the New York Times and the Post and everybody, because now we're saying it's okay to prosecute people for printing truth. This is very problematic, people. I've been saying it for 10 years or more. This is not a small thing. It's a very big thing.
And the last thing that I will point out before we go, you know, we're happy to have Jon Stewart back on the air on Comedy Central. He does a lot of good stuff.
But his guests suck ass.
But it's also painfully clear that he did have a little talking to after he did his segment equating that Joe Biden is not capable of beating Donald Trump again, which is true. But that's neither here nor there. He got his little talking to. And so Jon Stewart decided to go on a tirade against Tucker Carlson, talking about what a useful idiot he was and how he didn't go hard enough at Vladimir Putin.
He didn't do that.
Well, you know what is true about Tucker Carlson? He has given a platform for multiple years now to Stella Assange to share her message about Julian Assange and his persecution and how he needs to be freed. And Tucker did this just yesterday for Stella Assange again. Has Jon Stewart did a single thing on Stella Assange's behalf? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the answer is no. It's very easy to go after the person on the other side because you don't like them. But you know what? When it comes to the real issues that are going to define ourselves, yeah, Tucker Carlson's a blowhard. We get that. But if he's going to shine light on an issue that is of immense importance, like Assange and our press freedom, you cannot overstate how important it is that we acknowledge that reality. And if Jon Stewart is going to have to walk that fine line at Comedy Central because he pissed off the liberals for stating the obvious, then what the hell's the point of coming back, John?
Well, his guests have been total shit. So even the night that he had the great monologue, it's like, yeah, that was really good. But then he had some neoliberal tool on talking about neoliberal tool shit.
A guy speaking, we're very happy to have your $2. It's the best that we could do
today. I got your package. Thank you. Yes. I got new pictures. There's a new dog.
Please go to patreon.com/generational change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. You do get that Lulu sticker if you do happen to contribute. We're very appreciative of that. What do we have coming up? We don't know yet.
I was going to ask you, what do we have coming up?
We're starting in the afternoon today, so it gives us more time to prepare for the following weeks. We will have Dr. Jill Stein as a guest coming up. Have not set the date on that, but we will have a chance to speak with her. It's been a long time coming. I think it's a conversation we should have. So we're going to have a lot of things developing over the next month or so, and you guys will find out lots of different guests that we'll be having on. Remember, the mission is about labor. That is where everything intersects. And no matter how bad things get, they are probably going to get even worse. But that also means that the system is cracking.
We need to get Kim Kelly on because I'm almost done with her book. So that was another thing, guys. I'm reading a book called Fight Like Hell. And it's a really cool history of labor and a lot of the untold stories that have not, just like every other history, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't told. It's really good.
Yeah.
And so, we had her on. It was a while ago. And now I've read the book and I would like to have her back. So we need to be talking with her. Name's Kim Kelly and the book is called Fight Like Hell and it's quite good. So if you guys pick that up and read that, we'll be having her on at some point. You lost
Damn it!
And you lost it.
At the last second, I thought I had it.
It's okay.
Well, anyway, smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things that we ask you to do. Randall Giovanetti, Donald James, Zero Joshua, you look to be a new person. We're happy to have you here. A guy speaking, Chip. Steve Grossman, great to see you. Ray J, of course, always great to see you. Jossie Smith, you seem to be a new person. Josie Smith, you seem to be a new person. Very happy to have you here. Remember to make sure to click that subscribe button. Make sure to click the bell so that you get reminders, even though a lot of people don't seem to get them for some reason. BW, we're still happy to have you here. Tony D, Hydra
there's
Operative.
pros and cons of the daytime. What you guys don't realize is there's always the lawn guys are always, and it's those blowers. And I said to him, I'm like, we always run the risk if we do this during the day. And sure enough, today, without fail. And it really feels like they're holding the blower up to the wall. Like, that's how loud it is.
JJ Jones, great to have you. You don't like my music, of course. Great to have you, as always.
You need to see
I think that covers most of the chat. Jordan Lott, you also seem like a new person today. And we can certainly say, on that note, Jen, if you're thinking about being a VP, Jesse Ventura would probably be the one.
Okay, I got to tell you, and I don't know if you know this, Jordan, but I am definitely a Jesse fan. I've always been a Jesse fan at every phase, actually. And he's been on here a couple times, so you should check out those interviews. But yeah, I definitely like Jesse.
JR Jr., always great to see you. And yes, there are people who see through the abuses of identity politics by the capital class. That's very lovely of you to say.
That's so sweet.
Yes.
That's nice.
Say hi to our friends over at Vanguard. All of you guys have been great. Robert.
The Vanguard guys.
Ray. Well, that was who was in the
the Vanguard
Robert
guys.
Pouquet Ray. Thank you for showing up. We really appreciate it. So for all of you guys, as we've said, much love, much appreciated.
We'll be
to
back
all
on
those things we
Monday.
ask you to do. We'll see you Monday.